Good morning. You are welcome to another edition of Import Export Platform, Facebook Live from 3 Pest Trade Academy. And my name is Dele Ayemibo. We continue our conversation on the what, the why, and how to export to Nigeria. And this morning I'll be looking at handling the challenges of export to Nigeria. 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 You can call it handling the challenges of importation into Nigeria. Handling the challenges of importation into Nigeria, depending on the way you see it. Remember, the main discussion is the what, the why, and how to export to Nigeria. And this morning I'm looking at handling. Wow. Yes, this should be episode 64. I think I wrote 63 here, so let me change to 64. Handling the challenges of export to Nigeria. Now, what I've done is to categorize the challenges of export to Nigeria into 14 segments. Into 12 segments rather. I will read them out. Then I will talk about the people responsible, the stakeholder responsible. Then I will now delve into talking about them one by one. Number one on my list here is inexperienced importer and exporter. Inexperienced importer and exporter. Inexperienced importer and exporter. Incompetent account officers. Incompetent account officers. Inadequate monitoring. Inadequate monitoring. Imprecise systems. Imprecise systems. Incompetent forwarders. Incompetent forwarders. Inefficient shipping lines. Inefficient shipping line. Incomplete documentation. Incomplete documentation. Insufficient tenure of facility. A facility, a finance facility made available for trade transaction. Insufficient tenure of facility. Incomprehensible financing terms. Incorrect data on document. Incorrect data on document. Incapable clearing agent. Incapable clearing agent. And ineffective risk mitigant. Ineffective risk mitigant. Now you notice something. Sorry. You notice something in what I've spoken about. You notice something very unique about those. All of them starting with in. I like alliteration a lot. So that explains why. Now, I'll break that into three. The three major people causing this problem are, number one, the import-export traders, that's the importer or exporter, number one. And most of the problems are with the importer in Nigeria or the exporter from abroad. The importer in Nigeria and the exporter from abroad. Most of the challenges. And that can account for about 50% of the challenges. Importer and exporter. But 25% of the challenges are from the banks And another 25% of the challenges are from the shipping line and the port agent. Shipping line and the port agent. Shipping line and the port agent. Traders, inexperienced importer and exporter is a problem of the importer and exporter. Inadequate monitoring is the problem of the importer and exporter. Imprecise sales times, challenges of the importer and exporter. Incomplete documentation is also a challenge of the importer and exporter. Incorrect data on document is a challenge of the importer and exporter. And ineffective risk mitigant is a challenge of the importer and exporter. On the part of the bank, incompetent account officers is a challenge. Insufficient tenure on facility is a challenge. Incomprehensible financing terms is a challenge on the part of the bank. On the part of the shipping line and port agent, incompetent forwarder, incapable clearing agent, and inefficient shipping lines. So what I would do now is I will be taking each of them one by one, and I'm hoping I'll be able to do like 3 to 4 in a session. Maybe between today and tomorrow evening, I should be able to finish. If I do 3 per time, that means I will do 6 today and I will do 6 tomorrow. 3 per time, I'll do 6 today and 6 tomorrow, and I'll be through with the challenges. Then I will now start discussing what I call the 5 Ds that destroy trade transaction. The 5 Ds that destroy trade transaction. The 5 Ds that destroy trade transaction. Sorry. The 5 Ds that destroys trade transaction. All right. So let's start with the first one. On my list here, I have inexperienced importer and exporter. Inexperienced importer and exporter. This is one of the major challenges. This is one of the major challenges of a typical trader. This is one of the major challenges of a typical trader. It's a big challenge for traders because at some point you will have to start the business and you are going to start from the unknown to known. So one way or the other, you really cannot do without the issue of being a novice at some point. So there's nothing being a novice. The only challenge is that it's a vice. It's a vice to remain a novice. There's nothing wrong in being a novice, but it is a vice. In my opinion, I think it is a vice to remain a novice. It's a vice because it destroys your trade transaction. It's a vice because it destroys your trade transaction. So if you do not do something about it, that might be the bane of your transaction. In my opinion, I think it is a... If you do not do something about it, it might become the bane of your transaction. A lot of importer and exporter are grossly ignorant. One thing you must know as an importer and exporter is to understand the fact that international trade is so dynamic. It's always changing. It's always changing. Why? It's always changing because of the changing landscape. It's always changing because of the changing landscape. It's always changing because of the changing landscape. The landscape is always changing. The landscape is always changing. Either in the local scene or in the international scene, the landscape is always changing. either in the local scene or in the international scene. The landscape is always changing. Let me give an example. Do you know what has happened this year? We have a new Incoterms. We have a new Incoterms, international commercial terms. We have a new Incoterms, international commercial terms. Just this year, we have a new Incoterm now. We have a new Incoterm now. Do you know what has happened this year? Do you know the implication of a new Incoterm? We now have a new rule, guiding the movement of goods from one country to the other. Where does my risk end? Where does yours start? There's a new rule now. 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 And that changes every 10 years. Even in Nigeria, every month, one regulation or the other, one circular or the other, from the Central Bank of Nigeria, every month. The landscape is always changing. What does that suggest? That suggests that an importer or exporter must be well informed. An importer or exporter must be well informed. Someone said, if you are not informed, you'll be deformed. Someone said, if you are not in the know, you will not be in the flow. Constantly changing, you really cannot do without having a good understanding of how international trade works. You really cannot do without having a good understanding of how trade works. So you, as an importer or as an exporter, I must have a good understanding of how trade works. In my country, if I was an exporter, and in the importer's country also, a number of importers are inexperienced in regulation and documentation. A number of importers are inexperienced in regulation and documentation that are involved in the import process or export process. A number of importers are very ignorant. A number of importers are very ignorant. Very, very ignorant. A number of importers and exporters are very, very ignorant. And that ignorance is causing them a big issue. Now, these challenges lead to 5 Ds that destroy trade transaction. These challenges lead to 5 Ds that destroy trade transaction. They lead to demurrage. They lead to demurrage. They lead to demurrage. They lead to delays. They lead to delays. They lead to defective goods. They lead to defective goods. They lead to detention. They lead to detention. And they lead to discrepancies. And they lead to discrepancies. I'm basically saying that an inexperienced importer and exporter will not help himself. You need to understand the pre-export documentation. You need to understand the post-export documentation. Unfortunately, many importers don't even understand that. And they want to start a trade transaction. And they want to start a trade transaction. And they want to go into import business. And basic information about the business they don't know. And this is very peculiar in my own country, Nigeria, where people only learn with error on the business. Going for a seminar, going for a training, going online to search for videos like these are things you must do. Going for a seminar, going for a training, going online to find a video like this are things you must do. If you don't do it, you will find yourself to blame. If you don't do it, you will find yourself to blame. People have made terrible mistakes in the past. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Just copy and paste what someone has done. So when you go for training, you are basically going to hear experience of someone who has done it before, and then he can share with you how he has avoided errors, mistakes, so that you also can avoid the same errors and mistakes. So that you also can avoid the same error and mistakes. So please and please, don't repeat the mistake of others. You simply repeat the mistake of others when you do not learn. You simply repeat the mistake of others when you do not learn. You simply repeat the mistake of others when you do not learn. Why should you repeat the mistake of others? You will repeat the mistake of others when you refuse to learn. And in my opinion, I think it's gross foolishness. Gross foolishness to repeat the mistake of others. It's gross foolishness. Why? It can be avoided. So why should you incur the mistake? It can be avoided. So why should you incur the mistake? Why? 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 Why should you incur the mistake? When just simple reading can prevent you from making that mistake. So you might have to sit down to read. Or you go on YouTube. Or you go on YouTube. Or you go on YouTube. What do you do on YouTube? To learn. To learn. To learn. You can learn by reading with your eyes. You can learn by hearing with your ears. So why don't you learn? Inadequate understanding of the import process and export process is making many to be unable to monitor, let alone manage. It's making them to be unable to monitor, let alone manage the trade process. And this makes them to be unduly exposed to all the errors. Make them to be unduly exposed to all the mistakes. Make them to be unduly exposed to all the inefficiencies, to all the negligence, to all the issues that the middlemen and intermediary make. Who are the middlemen? The banks. Who are the middlemen? The clearing agent. Who are the middlemen? The forwarding agent. Who are the middlemen? The shipping line. Who are the middlemen? All the haulage company, the airline that you are working with. Anybody between the importer and the exporter are intermediaries. And when this intermediary make mistake, the importer and the exporter bear the brunt. When these intermediaries make mistake, the importer and the exporter bear the brunt. When this intermediary make mistake, the importer and the exporter bear the brunt. This is very unnecessary. But it will happen. And it will happen over and over and over again for the importers. And the importer will have to learn. And the learning curve will be very deep. Why? Because you are learning from the errors that you could have avoided. Because you are learning from the errors that you could have avoided. Because you are learning from the errors that you could have avoided. Because you are learning from the errors that you could have avoided. It is most unfortunate, but that's what happened in this environment. It is most unfortunate, but that's what happened in this environment. The trade environment requires a manager. The trade environment requires a manager to manage each of the trade transactions. This can either be the importer or the exporter. The manager of the trade process can either be the importer or the exporter. The manager of the trade process can either be the importer or the exporter. Someone must take responsibility, and I mean full responsibility. Someone must take responsibility. I mean full responsibility. Either the importer or the exporter to manage the process. to monitor the process, to have a chart to know exactly where they are at any point in time in the course of a transaction. If you don't do it, you are going to be exposing yourself to the 5 Ds that destroy trade transaction. To the 5 Ds that destroy trade transaction. You are going to be exposing yourself to these 5 Ds. You are going to be exposing yourself to these 5 Ds. Important. They made many people to go into huge debt. They make many people to go into huge debt. Why should you incur unnecessary loss because of absolute ignorance in being able to manage your trade transaction? This inexperience, inadequate knowledge on the part of the importer and exporter make them to be unable to monitor, make them to be unable to manage the process, and thus become unduly exposed to the errors, inadequacies, and problems of the intermediaries in the trade business. How then do we solve the inexperience problem? You gather experience by simply attending training programs. You gather experience by simply getting a book to read about how the process works. You gather experience by reading a book to be able, when you read a book, someone have learned, he spent 20 years learning, gathering experience, and you are reading the book of such an individual. You know what you do? You acquire all the length in 3, 4, 5 years. All the length in 3, 4, 5 years. All the length in 3, 4, 5 years, you acquire all that in 3, 4, 5 hours, in 3, 4, 5 days, in 3, 4, 5 weeks. By just picking up the book to read. Training, self-training, on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on the internet, self-training, or formal training is one of the major ways to prevent yourself from incurring unnecessary loss in trade transaction. We have some product that might be of interest to you that might help you. We have a product called the Import Pro. We have another product called the Export Pro. We have another one called the Export Business Kit. Import Pro, Export Pro, Export Business Kit. Import Pro is a pack of CDs and DVDs and book put together in one pack, such that through the videos, the CDs, the book, you can learn almost everything you need to know and learn as far as a trade transaction is concerned. You can learn almost everything you need to know as far as a trade transaction is concerned. Almost everything. Almost everything. You will learn them just on one sit. In few days. By just purchasing Import Pro. So you want to consider Import Pro actually. You really want to consider Import Pro. You know why? Because you are able to acquire all the knowledge you need in a jiffy. You are able to acquire all the knowledge you need in a jiffy within a very short time. All the knowledge you need can be acquired. All the knowledge you need can be acquired. So why waste time? Why waste time, money, energy, doing try and error? Doing try and error There's so many people doing business, and sincerely, a lot of them are just doing trial and error. Why? Because many are very much unaware of the fact that there are products that can help them to be able to shorten the learning time, reduce their error rate, and make that business profitable. I will continue in the evening, and as I take on the number 2, I thought I would do 3 today, this morning, but I'm doing only 1. Maybe I will do 2 in the evening, but let's see how it goes. I take on the number 2, and that is the incompetent account officer. Thank you very much for listening, and bye for now.